another episode of, I'm guessing this is Happy Politics. I am collaborating today with the fabulous Q Simp. Hey, Mr. Q Simp.
How you gonna say you're guessing? You forgot the name of your own see?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a collaborative measure here.
oh man, how's everything, man? How's everything going in this wonderful year of 2020?
I think for everybody, they wish 2020 was over, but like I saw a fabulous tweet the other day that says like, don't wait for 2020 to be over because like the all of our issues are not just going to be over like 2021. Okay, now we leave everything in 2020. It's like no,
Mm-mm.
no, pretty much everything's going to carry over. There's no bad year, good year. It's just all it's
I
all
know.
shitty.
I know. I actually said that to a buddy of mine earlier because I was like, man, if 2020 is this bad, I wonder how 2021 gonna be really. Like, is it? Are we gonna like finally have like aliens and they say, you know what, we tired of y'all stuff. We just need to end this and start over.
Nah, I think it's too early for the aliens, bro. I think
Is
like
it?
actually we need to start talking about. See, we're already kidnapping people. So I think probably the next season we need to have like leaked footage of somebody getting tortured or something.
Oh shit. You know what? Unfortunately, if that were to happen, in this in this day and age, people say it's fake news. That was a that was a video production. I think I seen that movie somewhere.
Yeah, man, it actually looks good. Shit, is that like leaked footage from an old movie that Donald Trump did make? I see Donald Trump right there. He's fabulous. He's such
Man.
a fabulous beating.
Hey! Don't you disrespect DT here? He's our greatest, most benevolent, most benevolent president we've ever had. He's been the greatest, and he's just good.
Shit, the way that he's handling these situations with Kyle and all that, you would really think so, man. I mean, we got these so-called lefties turning center right, and just going straight alt right. Dog Destiny.
Oh. So he took the Dave Rubin approach. I feel that.
Something going on, but I'm pretty sure somebody's gonna tag this podcast and be like, "Look, you talking that shit."
Hey man, if a few fits, it is what it is. Like it's weird how people go from. I don't know. Maybe this is a bias in me. I can see how someone goes from being like Republican, like hardcore, super Republican, and then as they learn a little bit more, they're like, yeah, that's bullshit. Let me change my views. But it's hard to see someone going the opposite unless they're paying you now.
Something like, yeah. I mean, it's got to be sort of a gradual transition, but with him, it's just weird. Like a lot of people still identify him as left, and I'm just like, I'm looking at the comments and his videos, and I'm like, that dude's not even by any stretch.
It's kind of like when I was telling you that I think what's the name of that? Of course, the accuracy isn't it's whatever. Of course, there's some generic questions they ask you, but the little squares that they had that will kind of determine if you're left, right, or I forgot. It was 4 quadrants, if I'm not mistaken.
What's that?
I said it was like 4 quadrants, if I'm not mistaken. It would say like you're
the political compass test or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one time they even considered like United States politics, and for the most part, everybody's like clustered on the right or near the center, but they're center right. I think Bernie and like AOC and all of them were like the only ones who were on the left, but they're still more center left. Like we rarely, if ever, get anyone who's in political office who's like all the way communist left. Like you don't get that.
I wish.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, communism means evil. Remember that.
Yeah.
Yes, ungodly.
Yeah. But then, like, if you actually go all the way to the left, then they'll be like, "Oh my God, we can't negotiate with that guy." Bernie, please come save us.
Oh my God.
You're actually reasonable one up in here.
Pretty much, man. I'll just look at it like our school. This is the only time I'll really say this. Our school system somewhat failed us because we really still go with the whole like Cold War definition of what communism is, even though it really wasn't a full communist regime. It was still a. I guess people fail to understand what really happened over there, and I'm not even really fully proficient in it, but last time I checked, if you're communist, you have like zero cash. Like you don't operate on a cash system at all. If I'm not, is that true, or am I just mistaken?
I mean, there's several forms of it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, people have to take in consideration the distinctions between authoritarianism, and you also have some people who like to identify themselves as socialists. They are furthest from socialists.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, people like to always throw out Venezuela, but they forget that Venezuela. Well, let me rephrase that. The United States was kind of hustling Venezuela for their oil, so Venezuela was still a capitalist country with some sprinkles of socialism within it. But it wasn't really the socialist parts that caused them to go through the economic downturn that they've gone through. That's just pundits on, you know, news pundits not really telling the full story and only just pointing at them as, you know, whatever, just to try to deter people away from the idea. At least that's how it comes off.
I teach people the idea of like there's like mixed market economy. What exactly is socialist, or is something inspired by socialists, or is something a socialist idea? I mean, like the police department, which like we really need to consider defunding like a motherfucker, or just abolishing. I mean, I'll abolish and then reconstruct all over again. We were saying that we were going to talk about the two deaths right here, and these are some of the cornerstones of why we actually want to get on the train of abolish or defund. So, which one did you want to start with?
I'm gonna start with this one. I think what's his name is Lyndon Cameron, a 13-year-old autistic boy, and the problem with this one is that, I mean, we've always talked about this. Matter of fact, let's just describe both of them. So apparently, this was a situation where the young man was actually having an autistic episode to where his mother was requesting help to assist with him. They sent the police for some reason, and instead of actually helping, they caused the. Was that?
He was having an episode.
Yeah, he was having an episode, and so she called the police. Or no, rephrase that. She called 911, and they sent the police, which is confusing, but okay. And instead of them actually helping or being able to actually say, well, man, we can't help in this, maybe we can get someone to help. One of the officers, let me see if they even actually had his name in here, because, you know, they love to hide the officers' names. Yeah, I don't see a name in it, but the police chief is Sergeant Keith Herricks. But anyways, they end up shooting the young man several times. Luckily, he's recovering, but apparently they say his recovery is going to be some time because, I mean, hell, he's 13 and he got shot multiple times in the back because he actually ran away from them, which I'm still wondering. I would like to hear what was the situation and why they needed to. Apparently, they tried to use the claim that he had a weapon, and I said, well, they got confused. They got the wrong script. He wasn't black.
Not cooperating. Yeah, gotta put him down.
Yeah, man, it's weird. And then there's Daniel Pruitt, who also is a mental health individual, and he was suffering from basically a hallucinogenic drug, PCP. He was released from the hospital prior to his encounter with police, but apparently in this case, he was, running through the street nude. And they end up apprehending him, but let me see. They put a hood over his head to stop him from spitting and then held him down for 2 minutes until he stopped breathing. And he died a week later after he was taken off life support. And so, you know what? let's talk about what defund the police really means, because I think that's something that people, they only listen to DJT and unfortunately Uncle Joe in this particular case, how they interpret it, but I think they're getting the interpretation wrong, or they're just not listening. So, in this particular case, we got mental health situations. By defunding the police and reallocating funds to other resources, we would have had mental health people, most likely social workers or someone similar, respond to these type of situations, because they will actually be trained professionals who know how to deal with that type of stuff. Does that make sense, or is that too hard or too left for it?
I don't know necessarily how that wouldn't really make sense. And like for somebody with like total, complete just lack of social awareness, our fabulous Mr. Biden, who's like the polls is like going in reverse now at this point. They're beginning to balance or even out. And we're now in a situation where this election now may be worse than Hillary Clinton. Like this is fucking ridiculous.
Man, look.
The other day he was talking about like, I'm not who's actually trying to defund the police. That's actually Donald Trump. I'm actually trying to give more funding to them. Now, to be fair to him, he is actually trying to give more funding to social services also as well.
Yeah, he did say that.
But here's the thing, and this is something that like I think me and Quentin spoke about, is just that so like a lot of people would like to like make this comparison of like, well, you guys are always talking about like the problems with schools is always that they have a lack of funding. But the thing is their problems are actually distinctively different. You never hear a conversation about the police officers have a lack of funding for like guns and cars. As a matter of fact, these motherfuckers is always rolling around with new whips and everything. You got these motherfuckers rolling around with Corvettes, Teslas, New Year fucking Explorers.
Yeah, hey man, and then they stay clipped up and ready. Like, come on, man.
Too many guns to be
honest. Now I know some people may say, yeah, I know some people may say they don't get paid enough, which that's fair depending on the type of job and scope they're doing. But to say that they have a lack of resources, unless we're talking about a city that's going broke, that is not the case.
Nah, man. Conservatives like to talk all that hot shit, bro. Like over here talking about like, oh yeah, we're gonna arm up against the government one day. Well, the whole point of the Second Amendment was just to make sure that if a government goes tyrannical,
tyrannical government bullshit.
You get together, man. You can't do a motherfucking thing.
Yo, I want to put that to rest, because you hear a lot of people say that shit. Let's be honest. You're saying you're going to rise up with your semi-auto AR, and let's say you're technical enough to be able to make it fully auto. Okay, cool. You're going against drones, bro. You're going against fighter jets, tanks, motherfuckers who train to be warriors like every day. You don't stand a chance.
Bro, like literally the other day, like Trump was up there talking about, it was like probably a month ago, was like contemplating, what we need fucking army? It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Up, my nigga. The army,
like
them niggas ain't gonna waste time trying to negotiate. They just shoot you.
I'm just saying, like it's a stupid concept. Now you really like. Okay, I'm gonna use. I think comedian Jim Jeffries said this best. He's like, it made sense when everybody was on an equal level playing field of having muskets. You know, there's one type of arm. At the most, the army may have had a cannon, but then again, let's also be honest. When that if I'm not mistaken, when that particular amendment was written, the United States didn't have an actual army. The army didn't come till later, so they didn't want to make a regimented army because of thinking that the army would actually be somewhat oppressive. So instead, we'll operate on a militia type thing, volunteer people who are going to band together to fight. Until later on, they actually made the first regimented, or I forgot the actual term, but it was actually a pretty dope name. But anyways, that's what I always say. At the time these things were written, maybe time requires revision or an analysis of what it should mean today. And I hate when people get in that whole thing like, oh yeah, well the founding fathers did this, and it's like, you know what? That was 1776, fam. How many years ago was this? I think
it was like it's actually like been a thing. Like there was one guy who said video that I sent you earlier about like Ice Cube with his black contract with America. And there are some other things that I would like him to add to that, but you know, it's a good start. Mm-hmm. And one guy in the comments said like, hey, you want to know what's your answer to where's your contract for Black America? Look at the Constitution. And I was like, oh, here we go with this Constitution.
Oh yeah, you mean the one that said we were what? Dang, what was it? Not 1/16th. It was basically not a full human. You mean that Constitution?
Yeah, you remember like that Dave Chappelle joke where he said like, what was it? Something about when they was writing the Constitution.
Yeah, talking about we hold these truths to be self-evident. Now, hey, now make me a sandwich there before I kill you. You know, that type of shit.
Something like that, bro. I said, yeah.
And it's funny though because yes, when the Constitution was written, slavery was a thing. Yo, folks was in chains when the Constitution was written, and so
total lack of self-awareness. I mean, maybe it was a troll account, but there are some niggas out there who actually believe some dumb shit like that, bro.
Yeah, and it's also funny because this was Jim Jeffries too. This is funny. He was, you know, because you got people who will say, "Well, you can't change the Constitution." And he was like, "Yes, you can. It's called an amendment." So yes, the Constitution is up for interpretation, and it's also up for reforming or adding or subtracting, just like how they gutted away protections for voter rights. Yeah, that type of stuff was taken away.
Like ritualizing this bullshit. Like, I understand, like, but it's pretty much just taught to us like the Constitution is the greatest thing ever, bro. But at a certain point, you gotta think like, man, like maybe this shit for today, bro. Like maybe we need to actually start having a real conversation about whether or not these motherfuckers need to be walking around with fucking guns. Cause like shit, what the fuck a militia go do against the government?
Tyranny. That's tyrannous, man. That's unconstitutional. You know, and but even then, I ask the questions. And I'm no constitutional lawyer, and so this is just my, you know, whatever mind trying to interpret these things. I always look at what is it really attached to. So you have the right to bear arms attached to a well-regulated militia, which means an organized, registered militia group. I don't think that means
regulated.
I don't think that means William with his shotgun. I don't think that's what that means.
Yeah, it doesn't mean Kyle can just like pull up, you know, like just say, hey man, you know, I'ma just pull up, go across state lines,
and
then just go to the protest, and I'ma just enact vigilante justice, my nigga.
Yeah, street justice, son. And so that's
do that shit, bro.
Yeah, but that's the problem that you run into, and then of course when you get these defend your ground laws and all these other laws that kind of help push that. Because I think we discussed this before. And I remember you initially brought this up to me. At first I rejected it, but after a while I was like, you know what? It makes sense. When you do own a firearm, you don't own it to just hold it. It's not, unless you're a collector, like a bona fide collector where you like, hey, I just like how these things look. Or hey, man, I wanted to buy the Lawgiver from Judge Dredd. It's inactive, but I just like how it looks. If you that type of person. But if you buy it and you hold it with you, there is this, on average, tends to be this thing where people feel braver than normal, than if they had to rely on their own physical prowess. So it gives certain people the, I don't say the opportunity, but it gives them the nats to say, you know what? I'm going to use this if somebody mess with me, or I'm waiting for somebody to mess with me. And then, you know, I even asked the question, where am I going where I need to have it on my hip at all times?
Yeah, like what kind of environment that you in, my nigga, that you feel like you got to like do something like that. Plus, like that's what I was telling like this guy that I know. It's like sometimes like you think you can just like roll around with a gun on your hip. You think like that protects you. Nah, like that just means that somebody know where the gun is, and they need to know who they need to go after first. And even put a gun out there, you say like, well, you know, we got an open carry state. That's not people from like trying something. I mean, shit, we got schools that get shot up with cops in it, like a motherfucker. You get banks that get robbed because of the same type of shit. You still got crimes that get committed. You probably got a cop around the corner. It's like there's always an independent threat of a gun. So like, does the gun prevent the crime, or does the introduction of the gun into this situation actually present a scenario where somebody can get killed because of said gun or something else that you may have not anticipated to happen with that gun? Like, so there was like this coworker who I've been conversating with about it, and even like the idea of like talking about collectors is a little weird. Because a lot of these collectors, they're in this like weird gray zone of like, yeah, I collect guns, but also I like to entertain the idea of shooting the motherfucker first chance that I get. They're some of the first ones that you gotta like watch out for. But for me, like if you're gonna have these guns, you're gonna be looked down upon, or you're gonna have a narrow eye on you to make sure you're on the up and up. You're gonna do background checks like a motherfucker. You better have like insurance on all of them. Them guns better be locked the fuck up. I don't care how you feel about it. I mean,
I don't know. You also might end up with a what's that dude? Male shoot. Hold up, I'm gonna find this guy's name. Go ahead, continue, because I remember he was like a big collector, but he was a weirdo too.
That guy who had a mannequin in his house.
Yep.
That was kind of creepy.
Yeah, man. It was. Shoot, I'm gonna have to find his name, but there, Mel Bernstein. So yeah, there you go. We get that type of guy, but back, I would say this: when you say defund the police, what does that really mean to you? Or abolish? I mean, I'm almost to the point where I'm open for both, because you should never see a situation where you can't call these people to actually help. And even if we also go back to the situation that happened in Fort Worth when it was just supposed to be a wellness check and she ends up getting killed in her own home because of mistaken identity. She had a gun. It's like, yeah, you went around to her bed, like one of her windows, and she wasn't she didn't know who you were, my guy.
Yeah, you just walk up on anybody like that, they're gonna be like, nigga, what the? Like, come on, man. So, yeah, I totally agree. But with the defund and abolish police movement, it's kind of a semantics game. I mean, I've seen people go as far as to say, yeah, we need to abolish police and we need to abolish the prisons. I'm not anywhere close to that. I know there are some motherfuckers out there that pulled off.
Yeah.
But depending on who you talk to, so I mean, the abolish police can be like abolish the current form of police and reestablish another form, because like it annoys me when I talk to people about it. Like, well, when I hear abolish police, I mean, I hear abolish the police entirely, and it's like, who's going to take their place in that vacuum? Yeah. Somebody has to take their place. You're going to call somebody in their place.
See, and I argue with people before like that, and I just tell them, you know what? Just because you feel that way doesn't make you not wrong. Look, I've gotten to that point where I'm just real mad niggerish with people now, because I'm no, and it probably doesn't help discourse, because I'm like, after a while, I'm like, nah, dog, you're just wrong. Plain and simple, you're wrong. And I know it's like people will be like, well, what do you mean? It's like there's ways you can find this stuff. You're just intentionally, failing to actually do the proper look into these things because you don't want to, or just because it's kind of the same thing when Colin Kaepernick knelt and he told you why. Instead, you want to tell him why he was doing it. I don't know why. I hate when people try to tell me what I mean when I told you what I meant.
Yeah, exactly. I told you what I meant, bro. And it's like, oh, man, that's not what you meant. This is what you meant. No. Listen to my words.
Yeah.
It literally is the opposite of what you say. And to be fair to some people out there, there are some people where they're getting their news from is actually kind of questionable. So they may not know necessarily the right way to find the path to all the knowledge that sometimes we have. And I'm not saying like we're like some fucking like dark web type bullshit or whatever. Like we have like access to information that other niggas. It's like, nah.
Yeah, man. Like QAnon.
No, yeah, okay. Nah. It's not that at all, bro. It's just that you just politics is so fucking complicated, bro. It's so broad that you can get lost in the web.
I know, but here's my thing, and this is probably why I'm like really, really tough on people, because the same reason why I used this with my kids one time, because they'll come and ask me, how do you spell this, or how you locate this, or what does this mean? And I say, you Google everything else except some academic related. You can look up this stuff just as easy as you're asking me. I'm not saying I don't have the information for you, but you have access to it easily. And so you will think that a reasonable individual would say, abolish the police or defund. Interesting. Let me see what they're talking about.
Yeah. There's a lot of articles out there that you can just Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or Quaint.
Yeah. Yeah, you could Bing it if you're nasty. Like Cody said.
You may even like frequent like a porn site or whatever, and they'll have like a blog, Black Lives Matter.
That's just, hey man, that was just weird. I'm like, yo, I don't think people want to, beat off and all of a sudden see we support black. It's like, that's interesting.
We already got like gamers who talk about politics. Find out like porn stars who talk about politics has to get banged out.
Is that going to be a new scene? He or she's at a protest and all of a sudden it breaks onto, see, look, no, that's terrible. That's going to be.
My dude getting his dick sucked over here talking about democratic socialism to his homeboy on the phone.
Oh my cool. God.
I don't know. Yeah. 2021, I'm not surprised anymore. You know what? I'd be into it. I watch that shit like that.
You know what? I'm sure it exists. I'm willing to bet it's there. I'm serious. But I don't know. It's just weird having a conversation when you have to basically almost repeat yourself to people. And I've had that situation before with certain people, and you're trying to explain to them, I know this is exactly what it means. It means to reallocate and do this and to do that. And it's like, well, I hear you, but I still don't. And to be skeptical of it is fine. You can be skeptical. That's fair. But to just totally reject the idea because you're not comfortable with it, or your cousin or uncle is a cop, or this is another one that always irked me. He was like, oh, well, it's technically legal for them to do so. I was like, you know what else was legal? Housing laws that actually restricted certain persons from purchasing. That was legal at one point. Jim Crow was legal at one point. Slavery was
legit. Like make a disagreement with you about something. I mean, it's a little. I probably still like be like, okay, I despise you a little bit or whatever. Not to hit me with that bullshit like, oh, is a cop? Like, all right, you start. Yeah. But if you actually have like a legit disagreement with defund the police or boss police, I'm like, I hear you out. But if you one of them type of niggas that'll be like, look, bro, y'all motherfuckers just want to like abolish the cops and then like let Antifa take up. Like, okay,
Oh my God.
nah, we ain't
Oh
about to have
boy.
this right now.
Oh, I told you about a certain person who was pushing that whole Antifa stuff. Unfortunately, they're a part of the family through marriage, but oh boy, it was so bad. Just like they had, that's another thing I want to talk about because apparently, Facebook's kind of coming under fire for all of this propaganda and lies and just flat out lies. And I remember going back, I think Facebook had tried to say that they wanted to remain an open forum for, people to, how they put it? They don't want to restrict information or something like that. But then the question comes up, because, we always get in that discussion of, again, another amendment. The First Amendment in regards was, free speech and freedom of speech, so on and so forth. So it's like, and so I got a question to pose: like, does free speech cover lies?
I mean, but who determines lies? I mean, we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I mean, really, how do you really like litigate something like that? Is kind of the question, because I know where you're probably going at. How do you like try to like mitigate the damage when it comes to like smears, libel? How do you have easier access to something like that? And how do you discern between whether or not somebody is talking about news versus opinion? Because a lot of these dudes is not clear at all about whether or not they're news or their opinion. And even if there are opinion, it's like they have a big platform, so people receive the information as news when actually they're talking about opinion, but they're portraying it as news. So it's a weird situation.
Yeah, and it's always funny because I've seen people backtrack. They try to put it out as news, and then when they're proven wrong, it's like, oh, well, it's just my opinion, bro. It's like, no, bro, you're wrong. It's not an opinion. Well, let me rephrase that. It is an opinion, but your opinion is wrong. I don't know, man. I don't know why that just popped up, because I was like, especially these last few years has been kind of like, it's actually funny because I deactivated my Facebook today because I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of seeing like goofy stuff on there and, just these people. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all got it. I'm going to walk away.
Man, well, don't get me wrong, bro. Like, I'm still on Facebook, but I'll log in like once a week. Now, I just saw something crazy just now. Trump just added 20 named potential candidates for the Supreme Court, assuming that there's a vacancy coming up.
Uh-oh.
He added a lovely senator, Ted Cruz.
Oh man, Mr. Theodore Cruz himself, old Teddy boy, who said, "Hey man, workers are making more money staying home than they are at work, and that's a problem." It's like, yeah, Ted, it is a problem, but not the problem you're thinking, because the fact that they make more on unemployment says a lot about how much they actually got paid to do work.
Ted Cruz, man, this motherfucker right here.
He's another one who flip flops. Like, he'll all of a sudden be like, oh, back some Democratic person or just agree with them, and then all of a sudden he flops back to the Republican side. Like, when you talk about somebody who's just whoring themselves out for whoever, Ted is right there.
Oh, man, Trump, man, he can look like the biggest bitch. I don't know what Trump has on him other than his career and his balls, pretty much.
Yeah.
Talking shit about wife, talking shit about dad. Like, come on,
yeah.
man.
And it's cool. It's okay. That's fine. Like,
It's not good, bro.
in most cases, you got to see me for that, but it's fine.
Yeah, your wife was sucking my dick yesterday. What you gonna do about it?
Man, honestly, that'll be the only time you can start questioning people. You like, yo, You let that man say that to you, huh? You just gonna let that ride? You go.
Bro, if I was Trump's wife, I'd be like, I wouldn't even believe it, but I'd be like, what you gonna do? What you
Hey
gonna say?
man, you gotta get her. You be like, man, if you don't get your old, my wife, I bought my wife, and that's why she don't really want to show me affection in public. Ass, anything, man. Like you gotta come with it.
Man, damn, bro.
Man, look, that's cold blood. Yeah, you gotta fight him. Like there's no other way around that.
But I mean, at this point, how many days do we have? We have roughly, about a little over
about
60
8
days
weeks roughly
until election, and much to really like work with. Talking about bringing back the Obamacare mandate.
Yep.
Over here outwriting fucking Trump talking about like, no, I'm not defunding the police. Trump's defunding the police. I am more pro cop. Like,
yep. The problem that I've noticed with the Democratic Party is they're trying too hard. One, we already know they're mostly centrist corporatist individuals outside of a small pocket of them. But they're also, and maybe you can even see it with the DNC. They're basically trying to recruit the middle of the road and undecided Republicans. That's what they're out to do. And you can tell because they basically left the true left behind. Told them all kind of things, and then of course they basically used people like Bernie and AOC to, oh man, get your people in line when election time come up. We ain't gonna do nothing for them. We not even gonna meet them halfway. We're not even gonna consider. Well, let me rephrase that. We'll consider it by putting a task force together, but it's virtue signaling. We're not really gonna do anything, but it looks like we did. But make sure you get them in line on election day.
Yeah, make sure you get them to like vote on.
It's like, but it's. I think I told you before. It's like you're in a weird place because DT is as bad as we think he is, but you're not proud to really vote for Joe either because like, what are we gonna get out of a Joe Biden?
Because you're like, damn, bro, like this nigga bad, but then this nigga comments about like I'm even more pro cop.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
And then I hate to say that you took a cop as your VP. We know ain't shit getting done when it comes to police reform or defunding.
We snatching y'all off the street. We're a little bit more elegant about
it. Yeah, exactly. We just gonna fuck y'all up with these laws instead. We ain't gonna just beat you in the face, but we'll be nice about it.
We're gonna lock even less of y'all up. We're gonna make it up somewhere. I mean, we're not gonna let y'all have weed or whatever. Nothing like that. But it's like come on, bro. I get the most right wing motherfucking nigga out of I think pretty much all of the Democrats minus there's somebody who I'm missing. The billionaire from New York. I'm blanking on.
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg, yeah. Pretty much you got like some of the worst niggas. Like most of the people who were running were all just pretty much whatever legalized weed. We don't give a fuck. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. And this nigga is still in the stage of it's a research. Like, bro, what is that research?
Like, the thing is, it has to be off of schedule 1 for it to actually be researched, and that's the problem. Is like if you keep it illegal, we can't do the research we need for it, and so then again, it's like what research is there? Like the CDC pretty much has already told you, hey, no deaths have been caused by marijuana alone, like 0. But alcohol, cigarettes, and all these other things are still legal because they paid us recently. So is that all it is?
I mean, some people have actually speculated that the reason why they don't want marijuana is because they don't want, like, the cigarette companies don't want competition. The cigarette companies
I thought that's anti-capitalist, isn't it? Or are we confused on that?
This is where capitalism begins to eat itself because it's like capitalism needs money to to preserve itself, but also capitalism in the form of these companies will use all kinds of money to preserve itself to make sure there ain't nobody else fucking up my cash, nigga.
Hey, I
Nigga,
thought, but the free market, bro. Wouldn't the free market dictate that marijuana and other drugs be legal?
See how far that gets you. You'll find out real quick the hypocrisy of niggas and how they'll flip on that shit real quick.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what they've told us. That's why they can't pay us more, because the free market, bro, that's what dictates your pay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really? I mean, if Biden said like, "Hey, I'm about to do a huge influx of money into the economy by like legalizing weed, and we're gonna basically start like having all these weed shops open up." I mean, that shit sounds fucking ridiculous coming from an old ass fucking man. You walk out there with that fucking like goofy ass walk that he had when he was doing that press conference earlier.
Oh man!
Like, imagine Joe Biden fucking high as fuck. Boy, I swear to God, I feel like he gonna drop an M-bomb on your ass.
Probably he gonna get too comfortable. But
yeah, boy. I mean, nigga. I mean, fuck.
Yeah, I know. But it's funny though, because I look at it like, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, and I know that's fine. But this should have been one of the easiest elections if you are potentially on the political left. Hey, we're going to legalize marijuana. We're going to actually do away with 3-strike minimums. We're going to take marijuana off, basically all those people who were put in jail on those fallacious charges, they will get released, and their basically criminal history expunged. That will be taken off, so they're no longer felons. So now we can actually put those people back into the workforce and actually help boost our economy by allowing workers to actually come back. We also, by making marijuana a legal thing, now create another additional job sector in 2 cases, one on the research sector, now in the production of said marijuana. Boom. All right. That's another job field. We're also going to actually consider and put a plan together for a Green New Deal. It's probably we're going to work through it. But now we also create another sector for renewable energy, all the other clean emissions, and so on and so forth. I'm just wondering, Medicare for all. Yeah, you know what? All those people who are in a private care system, we can actually transition them over to the Medicare for all system. We're going to try to put everybody on a single payer system to where every American is actually covered, and we'll actually expand that and to make sure it's efficient by actually having the right amount of people employed to make it run properly. We're not going to do what we did with the IRS and other services by gutting it. We're going to make sure that we have the right amount of people, or what they call head count, in order to make sure this runs as efficiently, as smoothly as possible. And you just sit back. let DT outflank you on that.
I mean, so some people even would argue that it is still possible to get Biden to sign off on Medicare for all. I'm not necessarily so sold on that. It is possible. I could see a situation where Biden would be forced to concede on Medicare for all, but you would have to get it through the House and the Senate.
Yeah,
as I can tell, when it comes to Nancy Pelosi, you gotta get Nancy out of there. Fucking Mitch McConnell.
yeah,
he's not bringing it. He's not bringing it to the floor. Now, a lot of people are speculating, and this may end up being true, that the Senate may come up under Democratic control, which is, it's okay. But I mean, even when you had a supermajority or a majority under Obama's term, remember, not really much of anything happened under those circumstances. So I think if I were to tell anybody anything, I would say, like, don't just like vote and just think that's just over with. Like, you have to like vote and get out there and strike and do all type of shit. You gotta do whatever. And like, And for some people, they may look at it and think like, well, what does whatever mean? And for some people, it may have to come into the form of rioting. Um, and that may be a controversial opinion, but think about like everything that has happened up to this point. So when you had the Colin Kaepernick situation, just bowing and
Mm-hmm.
just taking a knee, he was as respectful as possible. He got that from what? Who did he get that advice from? A Navy Reserve
Former Navy Ranger, if not Navy or Army Ranger, if I'm not mistaken.
Ranger. So he got that Army Ranger, and people were still dismissing him. And
Mm-hmm.
then you had protests, strikes happening,
Mm-hmm.
and people were dismissing
Just
all
to
of
get.
that. And
Yep.
now you basically have situations where people are like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna set this bitch on fire. So
It goes with that saying that unfortunately only the certain people only understand what you mean when all of a sudden you get ignorant. Yeah, you ever like try to get your point across, and until you get like belligerent with them, then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh man, bro, what's wrong?" It's like, man, I've been trying to tell you the whole time. Don't act like you don't know now. And and that's the problem is like, and even with the protests, I would say it's a combination of a multitude of things, not just the pretty much the domestic terrorism to U.S. citizens through the police force in cases, but you're also looking at the wage issue. You're looking at the job issue. You're looking at the healthcare issue. You're looking at all kind of problems that our leadership, Democrat and Republican, have failed to address. It's got to the point to where it's not even really a secret anymore, or at least this is how it comes off. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to just tell you what it looks like. It comes off as like they're basically saying, we don't really work for you. Yes, you put us in office, but at the end of the day, our donors are who we work for because that's the more bang for our buck. And so it's interesting how that all plays out, but no one really pays attention to that. And so here it'll go like this. There'll be Republican, but then when you then bring up all the issues that Republicans have done, instead of saying, maybe I need to reconsider, they'll then just say, oh, well, all government's bad. That's why I don't pay attention to it anyway. And there you go.
yeah, your answer to it can't necessarily just be like, well, we need to just like talk to them about the importance of voting. Like, bro, do you know how long people have been talking about the importance of voting? That shit don't work. Like, you can tell them niggas all the fuck you want, man, but like, you gotta like give them niggas a reason to like show up, and like sometimes that requires people like me or people like Quentin or whatever to go out there and like tell people the circumstances. But like, we gotta be real about it because like, we can't sit out there. We're not gonna go out there and campaign for Joe. Like, first of all, like all these motherfuckers that they're talking about, if they're after the election, if Biden loses, all of a sudden it's our fault. Like, nah, we did what we did for Bernie, so it's on y'all to convince them motherfuckers. We don't work for y'all at
Yes.
all. We were capping for our nigga, and some of us may have come over because we understand, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the other niggas don't understand. And it doesn't mean that the disenfranchised voters is understanding. And while y'all over here trying to like reach over for these right wing center ass and potentially over here getting endorsements from like Richard Spencer and all that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Y'all over here trying to reach for this nigga. Y'all over here forgetting that there's this huge swath of like disenfranchised voters over here that y'all is not touching at all. It's like the largest voter base, and y'all just ignoring them. Yeah. That's your job to go over there and fucking talk to them. And understand why fucking what you like that.
Yeah.
Because you was a piece of shit ass nigga. You need to be real about that and then get on the train and be like, yo, you know what? That was my bad, bro. You know what? We full of shit. This is what we go do about it.
Yeah.
Then that's on them to say, hey, I believe you or I don't believe you. Oh, you say you go give me a raise on the first day? Or you say you go give me a Australian style Medicare system. I don't know what the fuck that means, but you just gonna give me healthcare, right?
Yeah.
I did whatever.
Exactly. But it's funny because it comes off as that person who feels you should just date them because they're present. They showed up, therefore you should give them all your attention. It's like, nah, B, that's not how it works. And you need to court me, goddammit. I need to understand why I need to be involved with you. But by saying that, and this is also sucks when it comes to our news, because our news has sucked throughout this whole thing as well, that you get these people who will say, well, policy shouldn't matter. It's just all about beating Donald Trump. But then I think I posed this to you. I was like, well, if we focus on policy, wouldn't that beat him eventually? Because people actually have a reason to come vote for you. Like, isn't that a good approach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like as opposed to now where like you just got all these fucking platitudes and bullshit like going on here talking about like oh man, we need to bring our jobs back to this country. Oh yeah, cool, okay.
Yeah, how are we going to get people trained for these jobs? People are already struggling with the debt crisis for student loans. Okay.
You're gonna bring jobs back, but it's like, okay, you're gonna bring them back during the pandemic, like okay.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, you're going to bring back jobs that a lot of people may not even qualify for. What do we do about that? Oh, go to college. Okay, cool. I went to college. I ain't get that job, though, but now I got this debt. Well, you shouldn't have went to school, but I was told I had to go to school in order to get this. Well, you should have went for something else. Oh, okay. So it's not just go to college, just go for something specifically? Okay.
I mean, dude, pull up plan out of Elizabeth Warren. I got a plan for that. Hey, look, I got this free college plan for you. You want to go back to college? Boom, here you go. First 2 years of college, I think it's bullshit. But if you want to say, 2 years of college, like,
I mean,
just throw a little bone out there.
You know, it cuts the price. It cuts the price drastically. But then again, I asked. Apparently, Google had made. They're going to roll out some kind of certificate program that potentially will be the equivalent of a 4-year degree for $400. So, is college still worth it then? If we can get something similar, like going to a big brick and mortar institution, is that worth it? If we can get something, the equivalent for what? We'll just say what, 80% of the price.
Mm-hmm. I'm over here like reading his webpage to see like what his plan is. So for about 2 years of community college or other high quality training without debt for any hardworking individual looking to learn and improve their skills. So 2 years of college proposed to nigga what? So in 2015, President Obama and Vice President Biden proposed making 2 years of community college is tuition free for hard workers. So he's basically fucking
copy and paste, bro. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Hey man, Control V.
Bro, like get off his dick, bro.
Hey man, my good friend Barack.
See, Barack and me did it like, bro, make your own fucking legacy, my nigga.
He don't have one because he's the most generic corporate politician they can find who is willing to not change shit. That's why they backed Joe. We also want to talk about how his good friend Barack actually put his boots to the ground in order to try to get Joe elected as well. You know, nobody talks about that aspect either. And again, we talked about this before. It's hard to talk negative about President Obama because he was our first black brother. Mm-hmm. So you can't say nothing bad about him.
I mean, so this is starting to sound like Pete's plan, Pete Buttigieg, whatever the fuck. Biden's plan to make 2 years of community college without debt will immediately offer individuals a way to become work ready within a 2-year degree or an industry certification. It will have the tuition costs for obtaining a 4-year degree by earning an associate's degree and then transferring those credits to a 4-year college or university. So I'm interpreting that as the first 2 years are free, but then the other 2 years
you got to cover. So the question I will have is how do you keep the universities from one, do junior colleges have the infrastructure to cover all of that? That's number one. And number two, how do you keep the universities from increasing tuition due to losing half of their costs? Because the issue that we run into is that these schools still charge like they're giving a like they're a product. And I know people have made an argument that going to college is a product. And it's like, no, it's a service. You educate the next group so they can then provide services to the community. That's how it works. Yes, some people tend to go into the private sector for themselves. However, a lot of people work in the public sector, such as for the city, such as for the hell. Even if you work in the private sector, you're still working to provide something for people. So I don't know.
Wait a minute. Okay, so under Biden's plan, individuals making 25,000 or less per year will not owe any payments on their undergraduate federal student loans and won't accrue any interest on those loans. Nigga, you gotta be basically empowered.
Yeah, you gotta be struggling.
It's like, oh man, no, you don't have to give us no money. I ain't got nothing to give.
Yeah, man. It's like, man, what you
nigga, owe me money, nigga. What you mean? $25,000, nigga. You owe me money for these bills, nigga. I need more money.
Like, but the problem is that doesn't solve the problem because you got a lot of people who make decent money, but the interest on them shits are expensive. And a lot of people don't ever consider that. And especially if you got to go all the way through something like law school or med school or whatever, then you're spending the first 20 plus years just trying to get rid of that shit.
Wait, what? Okay, so after 20 years, the remainder of the loans for people who have responsibly made payments through the program will be 100% given. God damn, so you have to pay like
20 years. What can happen in 20 years? You can lose a job. You can have a health issue. You can lose a family member through health issues. It's they've spread it out so far to where it almost becomes unfeasible because in 20 years things happen.
I'm just trying to figure out where did you come up with this number of 20 years, bro? That's pretty much most of that nigga.
Yeah. Think about it. If you graduate college at the average age, which is between 22 to 24, you're saying that you got to pay on them until you're about 42 to 44. And that's hoping you can, especially the way our economy is operating, it's very difficult to hold down one job for that long now.
Basically, I'm looking for fucking. Oh man,
I don't know. He said what he's gonna do about the homeless situation or rent situation that people are going through.
Leave them on the streets, man.
Yeah, that's right. They just didn't work hard enough. That's why they don't deserve a place to stay.
I'll be very surprised if like he actually says that we'll provide like free housing for them. Okay. It's an interesting plan right there. I'm actually okay with that.
It makes sense, but you know how people are. They don't believe that basic necessities should be. We shouldn't cover those things as a collective. They feel like you should gain that. Oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, bro. Yeah, that type of situation.
Biden has promised to reinstate the fair housing rules scrapped by Trump. He has also pledged a sharp increase in Section 8 rent subsidies to ensure that they're available to all Americans whose income is low enough to qualify. That presupposes that they are actually having any income coming in at all. So I need to see the part where he's talking about $100 billion into affordable housing fund, finance upgrading housing for low-income Americans. He's about to put $10 billion into tax incentives that encourage developers to build affordable housing in communities that need it the most. But pledged $13 billion in spending to combat homelessness, ensuring that housing for all formerly incarcerated individuals upon release. Okay, so his criminal justice proposal include a goal of ensuring housing for all formerly incarcerated individuals upon release. So
Okay.
is that what is that him saying that he's guaranteeing housing for everybody out like just formerly incarcerated? So I don't know how to interpret that, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thing. So keep a lookout for it.
Yeah,
But
I guess I'm also more interested. Like, and of course, I'm sure they haven't addressed it at all because apparently we have an estimated of what 30 to 40 million people who may end up on the streets due to evictions due to COVID. Um, but apparently now I know the was there rent moratorium is going on. However, that doesn't stop your past due rent from accumulating between now and December. So,
bro, wow, yeah, that's just gonna be crazy. I did actually end up donating to that guy, by the way, but holy shit.
I mean, it's just going to be crazy because I look at it like what happens in December, especially during the winter months where it's more the worst time to be on the streets, especially if you're living in areas where it snows. Down here in Texas, it may not be as bad, but it's still you can still have harsh weather. So all those potential people on the streets because you know what they landlords say, hey, yo, rents due, sucker. You know.
For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about that video. Like there was, I believe, it was a constable was going around like evicting people in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, Harris County. And I believe there was even some going on at one point in California. But I think that was also halted at one point. But then again, they basically used it as a justification because they were saying like, oh, well, we're just gonna get the people pre-COVID, and it's like you're gonna get them now. Like of all times, this is the time you want to try to get them out, and it even has you start thinking like, do we really? This is another thing. I know we talked about police, but do we need landlords? Like, to be honest, like, should that be a thing where you pay premium price to have a shelter?
Not really. I mean, so like, you really shouldn't be privatizing people. Really, at this point, I mean, I'm actually not. So this is actually where I do probably sort of agree with the approach where like landlords, it's okay. Like if you want to go out and build these fucking like high rise properties and all that, these luxury properties, be my guest, bro. Go out there and fucking do that shit. But when shit gets real, and when we talking about like homelessness, and people getting evicted out of homes and everything, it's like no, you can't leave that in the hand of these private corporations, these real estate companies, going around just like going out of the goodness of their hearts, saying, "Well, you know, we'll bless you right this month, but
Yeah.
we're gonna need our money. We're gonna need all our fucking money next month, or maybe next year." It's like, how am I going to get the money? I'm fucking fired, bitch. Like, how is that going to happen?
See, my only issue with landlords is there's a lot of them who are very predatory. Like, I can't remember the guy. He has a podcast though, but he basically will say he don't care if your mama died, somebody's sick, COVID, whatever. He needs his rent. Shame on you if you don't have it. And he even gets a kick out of going to actually evict people. And so, I mean, reason I ask is because the only issue I have with people trying to intentionally go out and build high rises is what always happens. They will ignore affordable homes, which is what people really need. Not how many people are really buying high rise apartments or these big mansions. Mansions aren't sold everywhere. That's why there's very few of them overall. And so, but you got people, they only want to build those homes because they can get the most money out of it. And then we tend to neglect everyone else. And so now that's why we get these situations where lower income homes either are out of date homes that are condemned. we're not rebuilding, we're not even doing anything in that area, and that thus drives the price down in that area, then drives everything else down along with it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, bro. So yeah, I'm actually open to the idea of like trying to figure out like I think it was a Venetia or something like that, trying to get like some kind of like subsidized whole housing program going off the grounds here, which will be drastically different from anything that the U.S. actually had because we got it for like low income people, Section 8. But
Yeah.
what I'm proposing is something like way broader than that.
Yeah, and the problem with Section 8 is, and a lot of them, it's like you got to start questioning what they consider poverty line because their poverty line is way, way, way low. Like, to be honest, minimum wage is poverty, but they'll put poverty like at like $6 an hour or something like that, which no one makes that. Not really, unless you're a waiter or waitress. But and so it's like, oh, okay. So since I make minimum wage, I'm not technically poverty line, not really, but I am. So I don't know. It's just at least that's what I saw on. I think it was MIT's living wage calculator. That's what they set it up as. Being poverty, like pretty much shanty life was like $6 an hour. Minimum wage was like $7.25. But then it was funny because I looked in our area, Collin County. A living wage is about $20 an hour, so a little more than double of what minimum wage really is.
Yeah, man. Over here looking at this webpage, I don't know how to interpret like all this shit on housing, the income limit. One person for 23,650. I don't know what that means, but
I guess is that the most you can make for one individual?
That's what I'm wondering because there's a column right here for housing choice voucher income limit, public housing income limit, and housing tax credit. Like I don't know what all of this actually means, so I'd have to ask what that means.
And I guess I'll leave people with this. Here's a good indicator on if everybody is doing well or not. I remember one time when I was in college, and I actually called to try to see if we get on housing at one point. It was me. I was a new parent, and I remember they told me the waiting list was 2 years, and this was in Beaumont, Texas. So I can only imagine that waiting list for like a big metro or a big city. And so people really have to really consider what does it mean for a country to be doing well financially. It's not based on the top tier people. It's really based on the bottom. I think we only do as well as our lowest people in our society. And I don't even really like using that term, but our lowest income earners in society. If the lowest income earners do well, honestly, that means everybody else is doing great, if you want to be honest. At least that's how I would interpret it. But for some reason, we keep wanting to push those at the very bottom further down, and then we want to complain when, there's crime and all these other things, which is kind of like adverse effect of our current practices. So just leave that there.
Yeah, man. So, I'll take some time out to look at some more of these really stretching. This motherfucker, every time you turn around, Biden, he ain't talking about shit.
No.
Smoke up my ass, and I'm not really trying to waste my time with that. And I see why people just throw their hands up and say, you know what, y'all motherfuckers.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what, Uncle Joe, hire a hype man. Like hire a hype man, a ghostwriter, somebody. You need to. You got to get this thing better, man. Because I'm not saying this is an alley-oop because DJT's folks are really, really, really almost somewhat cult-like. I hate to say that because it sounds horrible. But
I let's just be real, bro. Like Kamala, she ain't no Obama. He tried to capture that magic, but she ain't no Obama.
It's no, and that was some of the things. Is like honestly, both of them were rather weak when it comes to speeches and captivating the audience. So we'll see.
I'm waiting for this debate. We'll see how this happens.
Well, I guess go out and vote. Maybe.
Riot too. Go ahead and riot. Riot and vote. Or fuck it. Like, dude, look. There's a number of strategies in this motherfucker that could actually work. There ain't one strategy that could work. If you think that going out there and rioting is your thing, so me personally, bro, I'm not supportive like setting shit on fire, especially if it's my shit. But,
yeah.
I understand why you would want to.
Yeah, I think most people. Well, let me phrase that. I think a lot of reasonable people understand why things get that way, and plus, keep it real. Not every protest ends with shit getting burned up. Now, you do have some people who go out and agitate, but that's a whole nother story. They even had situations where cops were caught vandalizing and then trying to blame it on the protesters. That's actual footage. Unless you're going to say that's doctored. Then, now you're just being unreasonable.
Yeah, there was actually a study that was done a few days ago. The protests were actually all peaceful. So, like, all this bullshit about, like, all of them is just, like, end up in violent riot protests, all that. Like, that shit is overblown. That's just, like, people just, like, hyper focusing on shit just to, like, demoralize and, like, tell people, like, hey, this is actually what's going on. These protesters, they're not fucking equality, whatever. They're going out there just to steal shit. Typical niggers.
Yeah, exactly.
Situation.
And also, to my knowledge, those DJT caravanners who I forgot which city they went to. Was it Portland or Wisconsin? But anyways, last time none of them got arrested for assault because apparently they were out there shooting folks with paintball guns, and that could be an assault charge. But
who was attacking Black?
Say it again.
You talking about the ones who was attacking Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Or was it Antifa? No, I think they were attacking Antifa.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but shit, I didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they was just shooting folks with paintball, and nothing happened to that as far as I know. Then there was the unmarked police car that drove in the middle of a protest, and then they try to say, "Nah, man, that wasn't us." I think this happened in New York, but then it also turned out, yes, it was actually a police car. But you know what? They investigated. They said, "Nah, it wasn't us." So hey, whatever.
We investigated ourselves. It wasn't us. We did. What? Of course you gonna say that dumb shit?
Oh man, it's bad. It's so blatant. But unfortunately, the way that so many people become desensitized was I don't know. I guess they're not believing what they see, and so they're in their mind they're basically trying to rationalize and say, "Nah, it can't be that. It has to be something else. This has to be fake because our OG said it was." But oh boy, I don't know. Tell me a joke so we can end on a good note.
Will be a lot better. 2021, Biden will have died. Kamala will be. No, that's not a joke.
Damn.
Kamala will be the president, or the DNC will realize, oh shit, we done fucked up. Switch out, upgrade. We need to get somebody else.
Oh man,
shit.
If only she. Bernie in the AOC ticket, but AOC's not. I don't think she's old enough to run for what you call it, vice. Oh well, yeah, she not even old enough to run for president. We got shit. She got to wait 20 years.
By 2020, I think it's 2024. She actually
she'll be 40 by well, it's 35 or 40.
35, I think.
Okay, all right. So yeah, never mind. I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Yep. All right. Well, shit. Even if we cover everything. Nothing is ever truly covered because, like, all this time we spend talking, there's about 200 things going on at the exact same time.
I know.
And our feed is gonna be like, talk about this here, watch this. Like, fuck. Like,
you know what?
geez.
Maybe we, just try to start doing it. I'm up for it because it's better than me calling you every day to talk about it.
Hey, we're already looking at it every day, so it's good. We'll work it out. Everybody. But yeah. We're everybody. We's about to be out this bitch. It's time for nappy time. You gotta go take care of his son, and I gotta take a shower.
All right, man. Hey, peace, y'all.